And we're back. Thanks for joining once again to follow along as we delve and dive into our hardcore Minecraft world. As we said in the end of the last video, this is a continuation of the same play session. We just took a quick break to let the recording reset, keep our episode lengths short, and for anyone else out there that may be considering, this type of a playthrough, it also helps to, I find, from that first episode to restart Minecraft every few hours or so. As you're playing, the Java is going to allocate memory and kind of use it, and just getting it a fresh start keeps your system resources fresh and fully available. So that's kind of where we're starting from. As we talked about in the end of the last episode, where our next greatest need is sugarcane. We've got our cows doing pretty well. We just did all our fields, and look at how much they've already grown back up again. Again, no smoke and mirrors here. That's just what has transpired while we were out working on our adventure. So good stuff. But I'm just gonna kind of dive in here and see how this stuff plays out. What I like to do with sugarcane is plant on similarly, focused on the long straight runs as opposed to the curvy shoreline that we've been working in. But as we go, keeping wide channels that I can run a boat up and down between our plantings. And what that will allow us to do is harvest from the land, and then when we've got everything kind of hand chopped down to just the base pieces of cane, we can run our boat up to grab those that are in the water. Now, the other way that we can do this, and it's really more efficient, is a similar lily pad or stairs or slabs technique where we would just leave a single train of water and then focus our stuff. And yeah, maybe this lends itself more to that. We're not going to be boating in and out of here, and so it's not as much an approach as kind of the more widespread layout that I like to use. So let's go for more efficiency in that side. So that must be dropping off there. I was like, why can't I get that? Okay, so we're already falling. We'll just start by laying out a grid, and I don't know what I like that. I think I'd like to keep sand on our real coast, and then make these out of dirt. Sugarcane, sand or dirt, doesn't, despite the hype, doesn't have a real preference. One is no better than the other, and I've had like that little edge there. I've certainly in my worlds over the years made sugar plantations that spread out over both sand and dirt, and have seen no significant, there's never a case where it's like, oh man, the stuff on the sand didn't grow, or the stuff on the dirt wasn't ready to harvest when the when the stuff on the sand was, vice versa, that really isn't a consideration that you have to worry about. So I think let's do a little bit of swimming first, and maybe this will let us do all three. I've been fortunate in recent stuff where I've kind of had existing low land that I've carved out for my sugar, and that was really where I found I liked the boat technique, was putting it on either side of a boat channel, and then being able to harvest that way. I think it looks cool and makes a nice approach to a home or a base, anything like that. When it gets grown up and is lit from a distance, it looks pretty nice. But here we're going to be tucked back in a corner. We're not going to be. You never really know which way is going to become your dominant approach, but being low down and between a couple of, bluffs on either side, this certainly isn't going to be something that will be a landmark in the distance. So we'll just make it more tight and not expect to be doing a lot of boating up and down in here. Certainly boats don't fit in a one-wide channel like this, so we won't be coming on up this way. And I don't know how far we're going to push this back around, but for the moment this is going to give us a good idea of what we're looking at, how far we want to take it. One thing I could have done was, let's go get it ready. Let's do this the right way. We might as well have sugar growing around us as we work on expanding our footprint, just as we had with our fields. It's always the best way to maximize our progress by letting things continue as we go. Now, I think we'll start kind of down here. Wasn't there a piece? Did I end up picking up? Yeah, there's that piece of sand. There it is right in front of me. Let's put that there. So we got a nice even deal. And I'm going to drop a torch or two on each side here. One in. And then we'll just... Man, it's tough to see these blocks at night on the dirt, but we'll lay out a pattern of torches every 5. Again, it works underground, works above ground, just a good metric in the world of Minecraft. Before we get into real trouble, and I realize as I jump in bed that we're right next to that cave. Yeah, maybe stuff we want to address. But so now we've got a little grid, and I wanted to, as closely as possible, replicate these just so we have some nice uniform alignment. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Boom, boom, boom. I was noticing in one of the videos as I was getting it ready to throw up on YouTube, just how much different screens make some of those things look. I was going through placing torches as we were building the farms, and I was like, man, did I miss every single one of those? They all look out of line, but no, it's just the different types of screens. So here we go. Gonna get our sugar just started. In order to grow, it has to be adjacent to a water block. and we certainly have that by creating these channels. And we're just going to plant what we've got. We've used up some to tame our donkey friend and to make our pumpkin pies, but we've already harvested a good deal, and this is going to greatly speed up our gathering to the point where we're like, man, we got more of this than we could ever need. But the truth is, even when we've got all the books we need, we can continue to use paper made from sugar on a 1-to-1 as a trade good. So really no reason not to use plenty of sugar. And, once we get to a certain point, it will just be there for us when we need it. We can harvest it when it's ready, or we need some, but like the eventual fields up above, we're not going to have to just constantly run back and forth gathering potatoes and carrots. Likewise, we're not going to have to constantly run back and forth gathering sugar either. We'll just pull out what we need of our sugar bank when it's ready, and go from there. So I'm kind of torn on this. I think maybe it would be better to just keep this, fairly constant along the shoreline, so we're not just, digging deep and then coming back out. As I've said, I don't really want to mess with the shape of our shoreline too much, but it would be good to have kind of a nice causeway going out towards our taiga over there. So yeah, we'll see. Let's just, since we talked about it, let's go see if we can chop a few fish. I still enjoy the water dynamic that they added a few, now more than a few releases back, but the ability to swim up and down, having fish entities out there in the water with you instead of just squid, so cool. And of course we're gonna get way too much kelp in our pockets, but who cares? So the other benefit that may inadvertently arise from this is that we may kind of create a opportunistic drown farm underneath, and again, it would be very passive, where we're not going to be doing some of the more involved drowned constructions where we're trying to manipulate them, but by having easily accessible shaded underwater expanse that's deep enough, they may pop up during the days, and we may find that it gives us a few of the chances to get those tridents that are fun to have in hand. So we'll see how that, whether or not that actually does, and if it did, until we either have respiration or some abundance of water potions, we're not going to be able to go deep underneath this anyway, but we may be able to coax a few drowned, if they do spawn, out to the edge and kind of have access to air, and also means to gather up the drops that they have. And again, drowned in and of themselves don't particularly have appealing stuff, but the couple things that they offer more so than regular zombies, they tend to have more gold bars that they'll drop. They will drop some of the water shells and pieces. I think they drop fish on occasion and can drop fishing poles. So, few different things, and of course the real gem out of all those, and the reason that people are usually actually dealing with drowned is to try to get tridents. They definitely change your ability once you have a trident and you've got it enchanted and ready to go. It's a pretty fun way to approach the game. I think I could go all day, fill that in all the way, and we still probably will over time. But we made a good start. We got more than enough room to expand out what we do have. The last thing we'll do in regard to sugarcane while we're working on it here is just go back over to our other side, see what's grown in our natural shoreline, and replant those pieces too, so that we have a whole bunch. And retrace our steps a little bit. I think we have a few more over here. Let's just hop in the boat a little bit faster than running on sand. There they go. There they are. And there's our sound. That I'm so glad we're on the other side of the land and don't have to listen to that all the time. All right, so another 28 pieces. That's at least probably one side. Our strips aren't particularly long for a sugarcane in this one, but we should have plenty of them. And now we'll have at least one more to get growing. What? Why is this so difficult? There we go. So, alright, maybe not a full row, but hey, pretty good. So what, 31 on some of these? So eventually we'll be out to at least a full 32, getting the idea of a full stack from each side, because you'll get fully grown will be 3 high, and you'll get 2 pieces each. So lots of, and by the time we're out there with a hard edge, maybe once we find kind of a base length, and maybe that is 32, we'll keep that uniform across or extend it out, and find that, with one quick harvest, we've got a good part of a chest of sugar ready to go, and that's going to be a big help. So, of course, for the time being, that sets us back a little bit. We now don't have the sugar to pair with the leather that we do have, but we've come a long way. Since we've been working in the food department, one other thing that you can do is dry out kelp. And I know some players, I've never really gone deep on creating a kelp farm or using it, but you can make kelp into a low stakes food source, and that's pretty handy. So we've got some raw salmon from our sword, and we'll hang on to that. Obviously, salmon or cod become a better food source when you cook them. it represents the real world trait of being able to better digest the proteins and things in meat when it's cooked as opposed to raw, even though things like sushi are certainly good, and you can eat raw fish. It's a little more easy for your body to process when it's been cooked and prepared those proteins for turning into energy in your cells ultimately. So yeah, got all that going for us. Next up, let's top off our stuff. We've got our stone here, and there are a few different things that we can do with stone that we haven't already done making the planks. So one of those is we can make stone bricks out of stone, and those become just a little bit nicer of a building material to use in and around our structures. The cobble certainly works. These have a similar resistance to getting blown up if a creeper should happen along. They're pretty sturdy and stout and will make a nice secure thing. And for the almost obligatory castle build that everybody's got to make a tower, everybody's got to build a castle-y type wall and those kind of things. These are great resources for it, but eventually we will look to do most of our day-to-day pickwork with Silk Touch. It keeps coal or redstone that you gather out in the world as you're venturing from breaking into the individual pieces. So here, we have redstone dust. If we go hit a piece of redstone in the ground with our iron pickaxe, we get the dust. If you have the Silk Touch enchantment, like we do on that shovel, not that a shovel is going to do any good, it'd probably break in our hand if we just tried to mine hard rock substances from it, but that will, with Silk Touch, will come up as the ore. So you would get the block that you see in the ground in your inventory. And for some of these that turn into 6, 7 pieces with each broken ore stone, you can fill up your inventory much more quickly. Well, with Silk Touch, all the coal that you have, you can a stack of 64 coal ores is going to fit in your inventory much more easily than all the individual pieces of coal. So, long story short, that's ultimately where we want to go with our mining tools and enchantments. But we're a ways off from anything like that right now. While it's nighttime, let's run back and run one more exploratory tunnel out. And this time I think as much as we want to kind of expand our space down here and do some building work, I'm eager to do that. I'd love to take down the rest of the ceiling. But man, we want to get on those diamonds. So let's come over to this side. Yeah, that looked off. I know it's right, but let's just go here. And as I said earlier, this is kind of the next direction we want to go. This is going to push out under our sugarcane farm in the direction of Donkey Village, and maybe we'll, if not diamonds, find some adventure along the way. If nothing else, we'll pass the night and maybe into the next without just necessarily sleeping, and then do another one of our adventures. So thanks for joining me once again. I really appreciate it. Go ahead and drop a comment. Let me know if there's pieces you really enjoy or stuff that you'd like to see in this series. What are activities that you really enjoy when you play Minecraft yourself, or recommendations for things I maybe could build or explore in this world? Have you caught something out of the corner of your eye in this playthrough and no one missed it? Obviously, anybody can miss things, and I showed it with the melon slices in my own chest. It's easy to overlook things. So have we run right by something that maybe you think I should go back and explore in greater detail? Definitely let me know. As I said at the very beginning, still working towards any kind of a live stream, but definitely would like to get to that interaction level. Kind of getting my bearings here. Want to become more familiar with the ins and outs of recording the videos. Kind of try to catch some pitfalls along the way before we really go live, as you may catch it if you've either run your own live streams or just from watching a variety of other streamers. Certainly, there are the folks that have large audiences and almost have a production team around them in their chats as they play, and the playing of a game is almost just a vehicle to support that community. Their chats that stream alongside move so quickly that you really stand no chance of reading them continuously, and the only stuff that you get to really register are the shouts and subscription notifications and those kind of things that either play aloud or get highlighted in the chat. So those folks struggle with a different kind of pressure, but I think, from what I've seen, a lot of the smaller channels, the ones that I enjoy just kind of searching for on Twitch or whatever your favorite platform is, where you see somebody that maybe has a dozen viewers active, and just go in and see what's up, see what they're doing. Is a fun way to support the community, support other people that are in my circumstances where they're trying to get started and figure things out. But you see that, they have the challenge of not having, a whole slew of moderators that are helping to maintain their chat. They don't have all the fancy sound effects and built-in graphics and things that just get continually added into the show, so to speak. So while playing, they're also trying to do a lot of that stream management that goes along with the content. And while I think that's really cool and fun and a big part of the appeal, not as big as diamonds, but it's appealing. Yeah, this is good stuff. Well, we'll talk more about streaming, but something I'd love to do. Looking forward to it, but just the gist of that was there are skills for both recording and streaming, and you have to practice those skills to get first competent at them, and then to where they become a little bit more second nature. So I'm not gonna, just like in my Minecraft world, I'm not gonna rush to get to end game content. I'm gonna enjoy the process along the way, and a part of that process when it comes to creating content is to get used to the various mediums. So the first step for me is playing while recording and making these available to anyone out there that would like to be a part and enjoy the content. Hope you do. Leave me a comment if you have discovered this channel and some of the playthrough. But as that moves along, then regardless of any growth here, even if I'm streaming to one or two people or hopefully more or even less, if it's nobody, I can do this what I hope is fairly competently in in even a live stream environment, just from what I've done so far here. Um, the real trick will be, um, if others start coming as you're interacting live, how much does that pull you away from what you're trying to do in the game, and how readily do you roll through that? How do you react to uh, live engagement, whether it's just people asking questions or whether it's folks trolling you, trying to get a reaction or a rise. All that stuff's part of why I want to do this. I think it's really cool, and meeting new friends out there in the virtual world from around the real world is makes our world more of a community. We talk about a community around a particular content creator, whether it's just through comments as feedback or whether it's live in a stream environment. But we can also think of that in terms of our global community. We uniquely, even compared to our parents and our grandparents' generations, have the ability to connect in real time with people all around the world, and just virtually hang out, see what they're thinking about between games, what they're currently interested in, involved in, what they like to snack on when they're playing a game, or after, what they do around certain holidays, and whether how much events that we I speak as an American in Colorado, but how much do the things that my local community think are newsworthy or important, how much are those issues for people out there around the world? That's all really cool. So, yeah, for that and so many other reasons, I would love to get going in a live format too. But at the moment, I'm just really enjoying getting used to creating these videos and kind of the flow and process of getting them out there for your enjoyment. So if you have found it and enjoyed it, again, I know I've said it a couple times already, but say it once more and then we'll change topics. I do definitely look forward to meeting you guys through your comments. Definitely let me know if you've enjoyed, and we'll hope to keep doing this and creating more and more as we go. All right, so while the diamonds were fantastic, and just like last time, we got them pretty early on, we haven't yet encountered adventure, be that in any of the underground forms, and I think we're due a little bit of adventure, don't you guys? So, just as we see that, sounds like a little lava. Oh boy. Okay, so we talked about spilling a bucket of water over standing lava, creating obsidian. We just saw the opposite of that. If lava flows onto water, it creates stone. And when we broke this block, it was wet. Lava fell into it, created stone. Now, I don't know if we break it again, if that will continue to be wet enough to create more stone, or if the lava will just flow down and after us. And we could certainly manage that, but I'd kind of like to see if we can work around it and get a look at what we're dealing with. So from here, I think we're free of the imminent lava. There it is. Now, this would seem to be a kind of ravine shape, and that's cool. It's definitely going to fit the bill for adventure. Hopefully without getting us dead. So this is exactly what we talked about over by Donkey Village, in that strip up there is obviously at least two, I think it is 2 blocks high in that little section, and even taller in the distance. So mobs can spawn up on that ledge and drop down on us. The biggest threat we're worried about from that would be creepers. If they see us and drop down, they will explode without any sizzle time. And the sizzle, that we see on ground level, at least gives us a chance to react. Well, if they just drop directly at us, yeah, that could be curtains. So immediate concern is what's going on with this lava, and because it's coming down right on the direction of our mine shaft, I think we're just gonna, we're not gonna preserve this one, frame it out or anything like that for the light. Although, maybe we do keep the light up high. This will clear it below, so we can continue to go and look. We've got just when we were talking about needing some more adventure, we've got a long ravine going in the opposite direction. Now, I think I want to get a couple torches down low, because ultimately we've got to get back to this point, and I'm going to put a couple here, just so that it remains clear where it is we're trying to go when we want to go back. The other thing that we want to do before we really lose ourselves or get distracted is to reset the torches that we lost from the water. I want to keep this all light, because the worst thing is to be running for our lives from a bunch of angry mobs and find that there's somebody waiting for us down below in what we thought was a safe tunnel. So, cool. Now we're up at least to a little bit higher. We're not right at the bottom of the ravine, which is a much nicer place to be. And as you can see, as it goes that way, it looks like it even raises up a bit higher. And while we have more hope of cool stuff down at the bottom of this ravine, we want... Oh, look at that in the distance. So this is adventure that we've been alluding to all along the way. That's a wooden couple pieces of fence post with a block on top of it, and that is some of the structure that otherwise constitutes an abandoned mine shaft. Those are early game, or early in the history of Minecraft structures that you could find dotted throughout the world. And I think they are more frequent now than they used to be. Oh, this is the other danger that I talked about with ravines, is when skeletons discover you, they're no more dangerous than they used to be, or are, just as you travel around the world, they can potentially knock you off the ledges that you're on. Ha! So we got a couple arrows. That's kind of cool. Sounds like we've got another one at least. I don't know where all these guys are coming from. I hate to just assume that we have a spawner. Ha! I did to him what he probably wanted to do to us. I just knocked him down. Now he's going to cycle his way back up. That's okay. So again, I think they may have come around, and this is a little bit of the juggling. I don't want to go too far beyond where I've already run torches, because creepers can ease their way out along those ledges and come give us a nasty surprise. But I also, if skeletons are popping below and just using our staircase against us, that's no good either. So we'll focus our efforts now in this direction, because we do definitely, if nothing else, want to get a little bit of a exploratory path out to the mine shaft here, and it may be possible that we can eventually cut the corner. As you know, we came in a tunnel from this direction, so we were, depending on where that ultimately ends up going, maybe that it, while above us, was kind of working back in the same direction. So we shall see, but just gonna kind of cautiously go, and when we're at this kind of level, teetering right around 40, which again I think is a jump in difficulty when did you hear that creeper drop? So somewhere, creeper kind of flopped onto the ground, and any of those could work their way around to come back up the stairs at us. With the mine shafts and level 40 in particular, we're kind of right on the cusp. We certainly don't need to be overly afraid, but particularly in the case of cave spiders, we're not really there yet. We'll want to be a little more capable of using our bow from a distance to slow those guys down. They're one of the early game mobs, kind of like silverfish, that I find more dangerous, more capable of getting you. They'll hit you with a poison bite, and they're quick. They're smaller than regular spiders, so they can fit through a single hole, and they have spawners throughout the underground system, and if they pop from those, it can pretty quickly stack up those effects and put you in a bad way. When you're playing in hardcore as opposed to just hard difficulty in survival mode, poison can kill you. In survival mode, poison will take you down to minimal hearts, but won't necessarily kill you and end your game. That level of safety isn't there in hardcore, and I'm just trying to get a guess for height, how we're comparing relative to that level, and it looks like we've still got a little ways to go up. So we want to be careful, particularly with cave spiders, but there's a lot of potential good in this mine shaft that we want to risk that for, to see if we can get some stuff. There's two things in particular, one of which we're by now all too familiar with, and that is enchanted golden apples. They don't have as high a likelihood of spawning in an abandoned mine shaft as they do in the desert temples. But they can spawn here. It's one of the couple locations that they actually can, and so we'll look for little mine carts with chests in them that might have those. So somehow I went too high, and very nearly. I mean, that's a good way to make yourself dead. You walk off a ledge in the dark and take a tumble. Almost certain that if you do that, there'll be a creeper waiting to join you. It just seems fated when those kind of things come. So we know roughly how far out the ravine is now. We'll by being a little bit lower here, I think we've got a better approach. I was hoping that we'd have some tunnels from that mine heading this way, and maybe it would catch them, but it looks like we're going to have to just carefully bridge across our ravine here. That's okay. This is still early enough that it really looks like we're just sitting right on the edge of it. Our ravine here keeps on going, and maybe this, just keeps heading off in that direction. So we're gonna secure ourselves a little bit from disaster by noting that skeleton, encouraging him to come to us as opposed to us coming to him. Of course, with skeleton, he may just walk himself right off the edge, but we'll help him. Okay, so he took the long tumble. Good for him. We need a new axe, or at least a refurbished axe, and I don't like facing the opposite way. So let's just lower this down a little bit. I don't want to have to be running from our bridge and immediately have to hop upstairs. So you can hear the arrows drop as we break the blocks. If you do that over your head, they will poke you, so be warned. Now, got a little bridge, we got a little area, so we're not likely to catch a random arrow and get tumbled into the void. I say that casually. A void is the real thing in the end, and obviously when you're dealing with real elements, they have more meaning. So, but what we don't want to do is get knocked off an edge and fall into our ravine. Here we got a little bit more of the structure that's sticking out. And we're just going to kind of cautiously see what, where, and when. And already, I think a lot of viewers probably have played this game and already know. But for those that don't, this is our first little venture into the abandoned mine shaft. They randomly grow underground as the world is forming, and kind of like some kind of a malignant growth, just shoot these tunnels off in all directions. They constitute a little bit of a maze. You can easily lose track of your way, and even, right now it seems pretty straightforward. We've got torches up, we can follow them as a backtrack back the way we'd come. We know we have to go up those stairs, take a left, go out to the edge, and follow the ravine back. But the more area you've explored and lit up, the more you come to realize that, hey, this goes in a lot of different directions. And this ravine, different from the one we were just in, although it may be connected, gives us a kind of a look of that. And look at my shield. It's noteworthy. I'd like, since we're down here, to kind of quickly place as many of these torches as we've got, and then we'll need to go back and really take an opportunity to resupply a bit before we press on too much more around here. But I have yet to see, and I was kind of hoping to, there's a skelly with an enchanted bow. I was hoping to see one of the chests. Really haven't seen too much track. Haven't fortunately encountered a nest of cave spiders. But I think you're kind of getting an idea for the fact that these can seemingly just go on and on and on. Now, this is a zombified villager. When villagers are attacked by zombies, and zombies will go after them if they see them out in the world, they turn into a remnant of themselves, something less than what they had once been. But they have a real value, and that is that once you're able to produce potions, you can make a potion and eventually heal infected zombies and get them back to the way they had been. And there's, as you may guess, an advancement for doing that. It's an unusual and multi-stepped task, so it's well suited for an advancement. But big advantage to having cured zombie villagers is that they retain gratitude to you for having done it, and they show that to you by offering very their best prices that they're able to offer on trades. So all the while that you're trading, if you just set up the farm that we likely will with villagers and they're regular villagers, all right, there's our torches. So now we get the challenge of trying to wend our way back, back and recognize the way that we came in here. So I think we went this way. We want to move quickly through that in case any creepers are up high. We're going to go back to these stairs. And easy enough. As I was saying, we would love, and again, I'm not a big automation or farm guy. I usually already have my villagers set and just kind of deal with the prices that they have before I'm ready to do a whole lot of curing. So not my top priority, but it's real nice when you do have them to make them work. And I've certainly, some of the streamers that I've said I enjoy watching have done really cool things with expanding the number of villagers available and making sure that each and every one of them has been cured and has the best possible price for anything that they could want to trade for. To me, for the amount of times that you're going to trade and the amount of emeralds that I end up with, there's a cost-benefit analysis which tells me that you're doing a whole lot more work just to get those price points than you really need to. You can do just as well by just getting some emeralds as quickly as possible and using those to trade. So we'll do a balance when we have the opportunity. We'll cure as possible, and if it's not convenient or we need to get our enchantments. So sorry, as I was talking there, we just ate one of the kelps that we cooked, and it gave us a healthy little food boost there. And since I don't plan to do a whole lot of this, I don't even remember if it's 4 or 9. That's 9. So you can also get a dried kelp block. These are what I know can be used for food or for fuel, and I don't think you can't eat them. But for the people that do create large kelp farms underwater with harvester, flying machines underwater that harvest all the kelp, you can make these blocks, and they will work just as functionally as coal in a furnace. So for our iron cook here, we've got a little bit of fire left from the piece of coal that's still burning. And when it finishes, our kelp will go, and no, we're not going to have quite enough to completely get through the burn or the build cook. So I believe that they stay at that same 8, although based on that fire, maybe not. Maybe we've got more fuel out of that little dried kelp block than I realized. Very cool. Since we've stumbled into that, don't want to wait. Obviously we've got a lot of cooking potential there. I don't want to waste it, so we'll let it cook as much cobble as we have. Yeah, I don't think we have enough sand to justify that as a cook. I don't want to have a seed in here, but while we're in there, let's put our andesite granite and die right away. Put the seed back where it belongs. How are we doing? So, yeah, cool little thing I hadn't really played with there, and another good reason to just keep exploring. So, as we go here now, I think we'll go ahead and I don't know that there's a real advantage to one or the other. So since we have 6, we'll just use it to make the helmet, which requires 5 diamonds, as opposed to the boots, which require 4. It's just a toss-up. But as you can see, we never really got all the way through. I'm not so sentimental. We'll keep an early used set of our iron armor, but we're not going to keep every piece or every tool that we ever used and retired. So that one will just go into our junk equipment box that eventually we'll clean up. We need to make a new shield, but the other thing I wanted to do was grab what arrows we do have. We've also once again got coal coming out of our ears. We sure do like that coal. We'll put away that bit of kelp we've eaten on. Let's see, dirt's over here. Now I got to... Oh, and that did kind of burn down, so while I was goofing around, that may have been a little bit futile, but we'll see how much extra stone we get. We certainly used up a few pieces of it, and long term, it doesn't hurt to have it. It might be nice to have some bricks along the way for some of our, whatever building we do. But let's... I don't know. I need one more piece of wood. What are we doing with wood? Okay. So here's our new shield. And as I'd said, as we move forward in the game progress, we're not going to be as dependent on the shield as we are early game, but it's sure nice to make use of it early while we do have it and have skeletons, potentially a bunch of them coming at us. We can just make use of the protection it offers and not burn through food quite as quickly. Now, our golden apples may become very important if we do stumble upon cave spiders until we can get them dealt with. But while we're waiting on that, while we're not fighting cave spiders, not necessarily waiting on them, we're going to want to keep that tool slot open. For the abandoned mine shafts, I like the iron swords to clear out cobwebs. Cobwebs will eat up durability pretty quickly if you don't very closely watch it. And I don't want to waste, diamonds are still, we don't even have shoes yet, much less enough to make picks and everything else that we're going to need. So, for low value, high use chopping, as we're going to be doing with the spider webs, I think an iron sword for the time being is a pretty good idea. The other thing that we'll maybe do on our next trip down it, and again without extra storage, we're going to blow through these pretty quickly. So we'll just run down. We'll use the sword. We can also use shears. They do pretty well on spider webs as well. We'll get a slightly different block that I'll be happy to show you, and that one has some defensive fun possibilities. Now, don't want to forget to do that, and we will retire a shield just for the sake of it. We may combine it back in again and just keep one going until the end, but since we'll never be upgrading and outgrowing that shield until we find that we're no longer using it and either put torches in our offhand or eventually a totem, we'll just keep it working. So I think we're pretty well set. We got a fairly healthy stack of potatoes. We got golden apples to switch in if we need them. We got a couple stacks of torches, and I am going to leave the bed. We don't need that. That's an extra spot that we don't have. What arrows we do have, we have, and we haven't just randomly picked up any feathers, so we can't quite make more. But we may find after this quick visit down in the mine shaft that we'll want to suddenly prioritize that chicken farm a little bit more. Without infinity, we could definitely use a few stacks of arrows, and that might be something pretty nice to have. We've definitely got loads and loads and loads of seeds now, and we'll never run short of those, so why not have some chickens? But I want to get back up here. We have this cool new area and have yet to see any treasure from it, so let's see if we can't change that now that we're a little better equipped for it. Now I think we'd kind of backtracked from here early on. Here, there's no excessive thought. I just get rid of the lava where I can. It may keep... Sorry, adjusting the headset and the mic here a little bit. It may get a little more accessible for some of the monsters in the area, but I want to be able to move around. The real loss when you clear it is the lack of landmark. Things begin to look more and more similar the further you go about clearing out the various things that make certain pieces unique. So that can be a challenge, but the benefit of getting those resources and things is certainly outweighs it. That's the whole point of running through these. Like so many other things, the more you play, the more you kind of refine your technique. Wow. And I think that particularly goes for me when it comes to mine shafts. Very early on, there's one of those mine chests, so that's good. Very early on, I would create a mini base safe room type scenario inside the mine shaft. I'd had furnaces and chests and all the rest, and to some extent still will do that. I can tell you, once we've gone through this one, we're not going to overly obsess about any other mine shafts that we do discover. We'll, maybe poke our head in if we happen across one, but we'll wait to even, if we even feel the need to further explore any until we've got shulkers and can just, load them up as we go. And if I am going to do a full mine at that point, I'll carve out a little room and, lay out my shulkers and all that, have them ready to go before I really get started, because I don't want to do too much running around. Now, that's still not the guy. That's the guy I was worried about. And where did he... this is how it always goes. You think you're going to kill one skill. Wow, there's still more. Oh, hey! We may have a spawner here. Oh, there it is. Excellent. Okay, let's pull back, regroup, because until we can get some food, these skeletons are wrecking us a little more than I'd like. And it really caught me off guard. I was, hey, I already dealt with the skeletons, and I was trying to get a snack, and they would start shooting me again. So, I don't know if you noticed, we were kind of performing a strategic retreat as we talked there, but there was some cobblestone stacked up by those wooden pillars, and that constituted a skeleton spawner. That's why they were just continually coming at us as we were killing one. There's another one there every time, and that is a very good thing, because that ultimately will make a XP farm that we don't need to build. They're not the most robust, and it's kind of easier to manage zombie spawners, but always a very welcome find, especially early in a game like this, to get a spawner. I don't feel super secure, but unfortunately, we're at Y level 15, and ironically, we're at X9. That's that's pretty low. We're getting close to zero here. If we go 850 blocks in the Y direction, we could be at 0, but so we can't really do any drop spawning of these guys. If they were higher up, we could build a water flow to weaken them with fall damage and make them into a one. Oh, this is what we had hoped for. I don't want to say anything, and it's not as good as, finding diamonds or an enchanted golden apple, but we finally got some beet seeds that we can use to finish up our last farm. So, very good. Obviously, disappointed that we didn't do better on location, because spawning out skeletons in this space would be very good for us. We can maybe do a little bit once we work more in the area. I haven't seen it directly, but I think, if we made a very small dark room next to it and put ourselves in proximity, they may jam spawn into a small area, and we could kind of harvest from there. The bone meal potential is very nice coming out of here. We can grow things a lot more quickly with the bones. Not to mention, as we go out on a next adventure, we can maybe pick up a doggy friend, and they would certainly welcome having some bones to offer them. So, well, that's good. We got 2 name tags, and one of those is going to go on our donkey friend. I don't know yet what he's going to get called, but I don't know that we're going to particularly wait for feedback out of the comments because we're having too much fun to just sit around and wait for that. Now, we will end your noise. You called over some buddies. I will kind of just, use my food quickly as we go here. The minecart chest is nice. Eventually we may pick up all this rail if, there's so many other options for quick travel now that old mine railroads are now gone. But fun to build. That was one of my early appeals of Minecraft. I was like, hey, there's this little adventure game that's kind of silly, but you can do some pretty cool things. Ultimately, it's kind of like the old model railroad layouts of my childhood. That man, I never really finished it, but my dad and I worked on a model train, kind of from my junior high, and really by the time I was in high school, it was becoming more my dad's project than mine. I was thought I was too cool for it, when ultimately it was something I was learning a lot from and enjoyed. But your time just gets more and more pulled as you get a little bit older. You got sports and activities and, friends that you can then go see on your own time and all that good stuff. So it became more challenging to find the time to work on it. But it was something we shared and enjoyed a little bit as I was growing up, and still have some of the pieces of it here with me. Obviously, the most of what we worked on was the big board that the track and everything got attached to, and the switching and controls and power and all that kind of stuff to actually run the track that we'd laid. And those are big pieces of any of those old school model railroad layouts. And I liked the train cars themselves. You'd hop on your bike and ride out to one of the hobby stores around, and that in itself is is when I was first starting was an adventure. I remember biking further than I ever had before, and without really telling my folks where I was going. One day after school, just I got some money from somewhere. I don't know, as a present or allowance or whatever. But I was like, I'm gonna go get a new train car while I can, and biked across my hometown to a hobby store that was close, and picked out a something and bought it, and I was pretty pleased with myself. All just in the nick of time, before my parents either got home from work or whatever, to find that I'd been out on adventures without again, they weren't overly concerned that I would have been out and around, but now I appreciate, as any parent would, that it never hurts to actually know what someone's plan is. I use that a lot. Living in Colorado, I really enjoy the reason why I'm here, and first came here a long time ago and have stayed ever since and made this my home, is I love the mountains. I think that it's some of the most appealing to my sense of nature, landscape or terrain that there can be, and really feels at home to me. But getting out and exploring and hiking in and doing all those great things in the mountains can be almost spiritual when you're alone doing it, but it carries a big risk. If something goes wrong, weather can change quickly. You're in terrain that is by necessity, it's the Rocky Mountains. It's rocky and mountainous, and you can think that you're completely ready to go and prepared and well equipped for everything. And one bad step, you sprain an ankle or something, and even if you're not a million miles away from people, you may just find yourself in a spot where you're off a trail, and even those few people that may be out doing the same kind of activities you are may not be able to see you. And if you happen to slide, even if you didn't fall off a cliff, but if you slid down a slope and found yourselves down in a gully, you may not be able to get out, and people may not even be able to hear you if you're yelling, even if they're not that far away, just by the the way sound moves around in those areas. So always a good idea to at least leave a note saying where you plan to go, how long you expect to be gone. And nowadays, with all of us having cell phones and being in closer communication with each other, it's just as easy to leave a text message or send an email or even call a friend and say, hey, just wanted to, let somebody know I'm going on a hike today. I'm going to go to this park, and, it's just going to be this afternoon, but I'm going solo. And, if you don't hear from me for a couple days, that's where to start looking. Hopefully I'll share some cool pictures with you. I'm going there because I hope to see this, or because, it's, I don't know, wildflower season, or birds are coming through, or it's supposed to just be a really beautiful day and there's a lake up there. I'll snap a picture on my phone and share it with you when I get back, and wish me luck. But just wanted somebody to know that's where I'm headed. Well, that's the kind of stuff that when you're a kid you don't necessarily think through all the way. It's why parents, we all kind of roll our eyes as our parents say, you don't think these things through. Well, that's an example of the types of things that when we're a little bit younger we don't fully think through, and we think, oh, it's just our parents trying to make sure we don't have any fun because they don't respect, they don't understand how capable we are. And there's a lot of validity to that. When you're growing up, the things that you've been working on, been practicing, all that kind of stuff more than they do, and you're developing so quickly that it can be hard for anybody else to really know where your head's at, what new interests you may have that maybe you didn't have not all that long ago. And when you're, for whatever reason, when you're young, I think we all go through it. You go through a phase where you're a little less communicative with everybody. You've got, a brain that's developing right alongside your body, and as it does, you kind of go through these phases where you think people are judging you maybe more than they really are. You kind of have a tendency to feel that no one else has felt the way you have, because what you're experiencing is so new and different, and can be a little, embarrassing, strange, different, and you just need time to come to grips with yourself, what your own body and brain are doing, much less listening to people try to tell you what to expect and what to go through. So all I'm saying is, as you're taking on new adventures or going out and exploring, even if you want to, as the old saying goes, ask for forgiveness rather than permission. You know you want to go do something, and it maybe somebody would say, it's not particularly a good idea, but you're going to do it anyway. Nobody's going to really stop you. You're going to go do it if you want to. If you are, at least leave a note. Tell a friend if you're not comfortable telling your parents where you're going to go spend the afternoon. Let somebody know what your plan is before you start, just so that if you find you got in over your head, it doesn't become a complete disaster, and that all grows out of the experience of model railroading, I guess. At least that's how I got off on that topic. So sorry if that seemed a little bit preachy. Just something I've found in my own life that isn't in any way directed to being kids or anything. I'm certainly anybody would go, yeah, you're an adult, and not that recently. So I know, and I definitely try, even when I think I'm, just going somewhere that's totally routine and normal. I'll just try to let somebody know what's going on in my day or what I'm thinking of doing, so that while it doesn't have to become an overly involved deal, it's a way of just having a little bit of extra safety. You never know who you're gonna run into out there. As we all know from the news, the world can be a scary place and isn't necessarily looking out for your best interests. So, just like the equipment we're carrying with us now, it's best to prepare in advance, and then you can have your fun and not have to worry that almost got bad. Hey, gold pants. Have fun down there. Get a bat. Yeah, so model railroads, the tracks, the powered rails, which we haven't even encountered yet, detector rails. You can make a somewhat complex and involved system. The biggest challenge is that there's, you're kind of limited by, you're in a single player environment in the world. When if you get into the server game, which I have never played and don't have a real desire to. For me, computer games are something I just do to chill out, and I feel there's much more obligation, no matter what you're playing in a multiplayer, to be on for a certain amount of time. To all of a sudden your connection becomes important. Being in the game in a focus sense is much more important. As I mentioned in previous videos, a lot, not when I'm recording, but a lot of the other time that I'm playing video games, I'm also doing some other thing along the way. I maybe listening to music or a show or something like that, or watching videos or sports, or I'm not one to just completely sit and watch TV or videos or anything like along those lines. I enjoy it, and others may say, "No, man, you do that all the time." Well, I do, but I like to have something else going on alongside, something that kind of occupy me, as that I have often a familiar show or source of activity in the background, and that really is better suited to single player, where if there's a pause or something like that, if my focus gets pulled away, I'm free to do that on my own terms. And if I make a derp and lose my world, no one else is then expecting me to get caught back up again. I don't owe anybody to anything. I don't have a guild or a raid, and those are cool. A team. Those are cool things that that help that whole sense of community that we've talked about. But they also become expectant of a certain level of involvement or communication, or if you're not going to be on for the big raid, then maybe the repayment is that you supply X amount of stuff. Well, my play style, yeah, as long as that's carrots or potatoes or corn, I'm all good. I've got big fields in this world, but it's that much more that you don't have the same sense of, this is how I want to play today, and that's totally different from how I wanted to play yesterday, but I don't have to justify that, and that's just what I'm going to do today. So I definitely enjoy the single player, but again, for back to the wondering topic of the mine rail carts and trails, setting them up to automate and run and have tracks and all that, and even switched junctions and things. Totally cool. Don't let me forget that. But unlike my classic railroad layout when I was a kid was HO scale, so fairly familiar size, not massive, not tiny. Just you would kind of take a 4x8 plywood board as your usual base to create a layout on. And that was enough space to have a couple different trains if you had multiple loops running at the same time, and you could kind of manage those pieces of it. And you don't tend to get a lot of that in a single player Minecraft world. You can make elaborate, powered riding systems, and we'll do some of that for some of the advancements. I like to use rail systems, but yeah, it as cool and as fun as that was in the early game. Nowadays you don't tend to do quite as much of it, but fun things to remember and think about. I did want to mention just here, I don't know that we've seen any in this world, because I still don't think we've seen the giant tree taiga yet, and I apologize if I'm forgetting, but this is mossy cobblestone. It does naturally occur in those giant tree taigas biomes in kind of rock outcroppings. It appears, and this was where it classically appeared, was here and in jungle temples in the spawner rooms, and so you could come in and harvest it here for building. And that was about it. Now you can ultimately, I think, get to the point of crafting, maybe with vines. Don't quote me on that, but I think that there became a way. So much less uncommon than with the underwater stuff. You can find loads of it out around the world. It's pretty cool. I've always liked the look of it. It's changed a little bit over time, but I think it adds a lot. In this world, we're up on the bluff. I don't know that we're going to really have a whole lot of water entrances without the wide sugarcane gardens and those kind of things. But a lot of times I'll build a kind of a wharf, and I'm sure at some point there will be some construction. But if you're building any kind of boat harbor or anything along a water line, I really think that this reflects that idea of a stony breakwater where some seaweed and stuff has grown up along it. The moisture and the stones just kind of make that haven for life. So I really, one of my favorite blocks over time in Minecraft is the mossy cobblestone. So anyway, some more random chatter as we go. That's another fun part about single player games, is just a chance to let your mind kind of wander. No scripts here. We're not gonna force that. I'm kind of at that weird spot. We've gotten a lot of random stuff, and I know we're low on torches, and I'm just kind of looking to fill my pockets and make an exit from here without finding that I've lost my way in some whole other section of this area. But I don't want to overgrab on stuff that's just going to be garbage. So take this iron. We've already got iron building in a stack. We've got so much coal. I'm not going to go out of my way for it yet. Here's a chance to place a couple more torches. See what we have down below. This looks like just another... It's kind of a split level mine shaft. So maybe we'll do that. Always remember just to keep an eye open as you're going down. This has some weird multi-level action going on. And I always kind of feel, some of that may be hiding a treasure. It's really just a matter of the generation algorithm, as it, no matter what order it's using to populate these structures. And I think, the order of steps is that it first creates the world, in the underground layers of stone, throws in the diorite and granite and all that kind of stuff throughout. And then once that's done, we'll insert these later type features as it goes. So you'll get a chance to have overlap, and as it's trying to run these various passages throughout. Sometimes they do behave a little strangely, and that's cool. I think that adds a lot of character to the world. If you were just going through and every individual hallway in a mine shaft looked the same, you would very quickly... Salmon. Dude, I know, it's tough that you spawned right in such a bad way. I don't want to directly hurt you, but I think you may not have an exceptionally long lifespan. Now here's... Oh, we didn't have quite enough. I wanted to highlight the attributes of the spider webs here, since we're down without being in a incredibly deadly spot. And of course now we're out of the torches that we were expecting. So the reason why I've kind of been coming through and whacking all these with my iron swords is I don't want to get killed by encountering spider webs. And when you jump, or if you knock an enemy into them, your head will get stuck and you slowly fall down through. And if they're on the ground, you can only slowly work through them. So, as quickly as anything, when I'm in an abandoned mine shaft, I want to go through. Well, even when you're falling, you can cut your way free. But as you see, it's about a whack and a half with my iron sword to chop through one when I'm just standing on the ground. But like being underwater, when you're falling, whatever the reasoning is, you don't have the same leverage, and it takes extra long to chop your way free. In the meantime, you're stuck. So if you happen to clip one of those when you're fighting mobs, or running away from danger, or if a creeper's coming by, that can be a big problem. And definitely, there you are, still doing okay. I'm not gonna stop the water just yet, but if you're gonna flop around and have a real problem, I'd rather you do it while I'm here so I can get your fish meat. But we'll let them go. Like I said, we're not trying to be malicious in this playthrough, and we're out of torches anyway. So we've had a good haul, and now, as I've said repeatedly, we just need to be able to find our way back. But we're pretty confident we know where we are. I'm gonna grab this little bit of gold. We'll fill in the hole, because leaving holes all over the place is the way that you fall in and get stuck when you're trying to run away from danger. Yeah, we got some room here. $58. 6 more pieces. Okay, that's plenty. I don't want to, just necessarily waste it by chopping out more than I can get to. At some point I think we need to just knock through that wall, but we'll maybe mothball this guy for just a moment. We've had a couple little good runs. We've gotten some good stuff. We found that skelly spawner, which unfortunately is too low to really create a spawner, mob spawner EXP factory, but the chests certainly gave us good benefit. We've got Beetroot Seeds now, so we'll get those in the ground. We've talked about the need to maybe start thinking more seriously about getting our chickens going, and we got those name tags. And it's nighttime, so we'll get a quick sleep in here, because I would imagine that since we've been fooling around underground, phantoms are now potentially circling and cruising around. If you really cared, one way that you can track and check that is to look at your days under local difficulty. So on the left hand side, and I guess I can do this, so not looking at the inventory but looking at the cursor now. In the background here you can see local difficulty 4.21, and we talked a little bit about that, as it increases over time. 1, I think, is our rating of that. Again, not entirely sure how all that relates, but will increase over time up to a certain cap. We are now at day 73 in our world, and remember when we died in World 1, I pulled up my, kind of my historical deaths on this laptop since I've had it, and there's a real trend around that kind of, day 65 to 75. I've lost a lot of worlds out of the ones that I have lost in that range, and I think that certainly corresponds to getting up to this level 40 area. You start to get more mob spawning and challenges in your world as your levels increase, and I haven't seen any specific writings on this or anything like that. I do think that that's a particular threshold as far as how your game experience adapts over time. So I'm just going to take these 2 chests that we've gathered in the mines and put them over here next to Donkey, and throw that extra saddle in there, and we could even put the leads in there if we wanted to. Again, he's got some supplies in his chest, but as we find more and more saddles, it's kind of handy just to have them out of our other stuff, but ready to go. We've got a number of other goodies here, and we'll kind of stack them away. Our name tags, I'm still kind of chewing on what's gonna be the most fitting name for our friend. We kind of want to avoid the cliches. I have one name that associates to our world name, and I'd love to kind of continue on that theme, but I also think that some of those are particularly fitting for particular animal types. But even just talking that through, I think maybe mentally I've stumbled on a direction that we'll consider heading in. So we're running out of space there. We really need the bedroom we've talked about, but as with any world, as you get going, the things you can do with your time continue to evolve. And we needed the sugar, we want the chickens, and yeah, we just have lots of things that I think are at the moment a little more pressing than just throwing an extra level on an already ugly house. And that's not that I don't want to improve it. I do, but really I want to have a little more continued access to building materials as we go. So those are all things to just kind of, yeah, we'll get to it. We'll maybe look for that in the next couple of sessions, but I do think having ventured deep into the abandoned mine shaft and slain many monsters of skeleton and zombie varieties, we're now going to get all this sugar turned, and that should fill out the dirt that we prepared. Then we'll turn our focus back over to those chickens, as we talked about. We'll get them a new home, very similar to their cow friends, and try to get some feathers going, because I do think we're going to be more ready for archery than we are to get equipped with infinity bow yet. So just kind of the circumstances of where we're at. I don't overly like to rely on a bow early. I think they slow down your progress, especially once you get enchanted weapons. Standing and drawing a bow back to full thing is a bit more tedious than just going head on and kind of berserker rage taking on a bunch of zombies or whatever you encounter. But with that, I do don't discredit their use. Cave spiders especially, we talked about, they represent a very real threat, and I would much rather at least weaken them even without any enchantments on the bow than have to hit them multiple times at close range while they're hitting me with poison and laughing as I kind of feel all sick and watch my hearts evaporate. So yeah, it's the good news, very good news in terms of our so far explorations of the abandoned mine shaft. We haven't even seen cave spiders have to deal with, so maybe it's all for naught. Although I do find that in my experience, they have a way of making their presence known, and I would anticipate somewhere in the extent of that mine shaft, there's at least one cave spider spawner. So eventually we'll deal with them. I'm just kind of gonna take this out, to the extent that we can, overlooking our sugarcane. It doesn't go too far in this direction. It extends a little bit, but it's always nice to have a bit of a view while you're working with the chickens and the cows. And I don't think it really changes the contour of our land too much. We're gonna try to preserve this hill on the back of our pumpkin and our natural pumpkin and berry farm. which I think is kind of nice to have. Maybe we'll eventually throw a couple more trees up on top of it. Scatter some flowers, that kind of stuff. Who knows? But it's kind of a nice little pocket between our house and all the animals, and something that will keep it from just being, kind of a flat industrial area, industrial agribusiness. Maybe not a factory, but the cows at the moment may argue that they feel like they're a bit canned already, being pressed in like they are. We'll deal with that problem soon enough, you guys. Don't worry. I've got a space enhancement plan for you all. I think you're really gonna enjoy the extra elbow room. You may find you don't really didn't want it as much as you thought when you find out how we get that space back, but the good news is that we'll turn you into yummy noms, and we'll treasure your contribution to Cow Elbow Room. Anyway, our shovel's about done. We got a few stacks of dirt out of that. And the good news is those chickens just keep kind of hovering around that area. So we'll look forward to that one. We need more shovels. And I know we've kind of returned here to more terrain sculpting stuff that we've already done quite a bit of, but it's nice to have that on the heels of a fun caving adventure too. I think that was a nice little bit of variety, and really keeps us on our toes. Now we'll just trim this edge back, and again, I want to keep some height there, just to separate a little bit, but also wanted to soften that hill from the edge so it'll run parallel to the one by the cows. And when we set our chest, we'll have the same kind of access into the pen from the outside, where we can just build up a little bit of speed and leap blindly into a mass of chickens. Now that we're here, we only have 18, so we're going to need, I guess we used quite a few in our building our farm enclosure. So we'll make another batch. That will definitely be enough. It's more than enough. So of gates, we do need one more stack so that we can eventually lay the foundation for our little chicken fence, chicken wall. We talked in the past about getting a path established over here. Maybe that's something we could do with the stone and stone bricks. We could pull that mossy cobble out of the skelly spawner room and use it, maybe down towards our sugarcane farm. I don't know, just fun stuff to think about, the possibilities when you see a cool block that you enjoy, and you're working on these less exciting tasks like moving some dirt. It's fun to think, alright, hadn't really anticipated having a lot of mossy cobble, but now that we got it, and it's not a lot, it's a dozen blocks or so in that area, maybe a little bit more than that, but not an endless supply. But oftentimes you can make your building efforts seem more natural, more authentic by adding a few blocks that aren't just completely the same. Gives it that that bit of depth and character that really makes a build come more alive. It engages your mind more when you look at it. I know we talked about the whole model railroading thing, and I kind of got on the big sidetrack of youthful adventures, but I think one of the ways that I stay most engaged in it, as a kid, even as I was growing up a little bit and didn't have as much time to throw into it, back then was the kind of books and magazines that talked about train layouts. And when I was a kid, there were a couple different, well, they were more clubs, I guess, than museums, but I think it's something that's really gone away in our current world, or at least kids aren't as engaged by it, and the people that have really built them have grown older, to the point of retirement. And I don't think that many people of the younger ages have really shown the same level of interest to keep the things going. I was, fortunate or not, but one of my parents' good friends growing up that lived a couple states away, but we would go to visit as little kids. He was a huge model railroader when I was little, and unlike what I was just talking about, and kind of where I was going with the added variety details, he didn't do any of that. The whole landscaping, the modeling trees and buildings and all that kind of stuff. He didn't. None of that was his bag. I think the Minecraft-y type stuff he could have cared less about. But what he really did well, he had loads of trains, what they call the rolling stock, which is the cars and the locomotives and all that kind of stuff that make up trains. Those pieces were, he could assemble what would amount to a real life train, that you might see out there in the world, where each freight car had a different number, and they were consistent to the companies that would have owned them and the different types and all that. And so while he had a massive basement room that even his kids weren't allowed to go into. they had their own room for toys and all that kind of stuff. But he had basically a locked train layout room, and that was his hobby. That was what he did to unwind. This was back very, very early days of home PCs, and certainly when I was a kid, and kids did things like play an Atari or a Intellivision or one of those kind of game systems. Parents, they didn't fool with any of that. That was next worst thing to TV for rotting your brain, and things that stimulated your creativity and your planning, such as Minecraft, really didn't exist. It truly was, and I'm sure you guys have seen the old games, but you'd basically gather items or fight monsters, and difficulty equated to the monsters moving faster, and there were more of them. You didn't get changes in graphics, you didn't get changes in maps, you didn't you may have had 2 or 3 that you would cycle through, but as you increased in level, thinking of Pac-Man or Space Invaders or anything like that, basically you would be looking at the same layout, and it would just be more filled with monsters, or more would generate and descend. Space Invaders would rain down atop you, or in the case of Pac-Man, your maps that you were trying to clear would would have a few more turns and a few more pieces of fruit in the case of Miss Pac-Man to go out and gobble up. So all kinds of tricks that developers used back then to add complexity. But like like my friend's dad's railroad layouts, they didn't have a lot of the individual or unique touches that made them seem like deep or engageable worlds. And bear with me if that sounds unfamiliar, but it's kind of a real thing that your mind dismisses or doesn't begin to imagine what the stories around those things could be, so much as if we're making a house and we got all this cobble, and then one of them has some cracks in it or something, even though you may not be particularly thinking about it, in the background your mind may start to, what is that, a bad foundation, what's shifting? And it just keeps the complexity going. So little details as you go along, you build a rectangular house like this and add a couple little details. It's not going to make it suddenly a beautiful house, but you can go a long way in just making a little cottage type house and adding a few details around it and make that a more pleasing picture to your mind than making a massive rectangle of stone or wood that just has doors and windows, much like this, but maybe a little more expanded. And even as we were getting started on this one, I said, as I was placing and shaving some of the logs and things, it helps to introduce variety. Just shaving some and leaving others at a different angle. Even those types of things help to engage and make your build a little bit more eye-catching than just having a uniform strip of wood all the way around the top. That's better than just all cobblestone, but it doesn't do quite as much. This just breaks it up and gives you a little bit of interest in those decorative details. I look forward to adding, because they will greatly enhance what our reaction is to seeing a construction. And does it trigger anything in our mind that makes us go, yeah, I could see that's a real thing, or I could see that there's a backstory behind it. So not to try to tutorialize any of this. I'm not telling you how to do that, but I do think as you move around the world and as you get stuck digging dirt and things like that, very worthwhile things to just think about a little bit as you go. So we've got some seeds in hand. We're going to gather up what eggs we do have. We'll try to use those to jumpstart our chickens. We had bred them a few times early. I haven't as much since. I kind of shifted focus to the cows, rightly so, I think. But yeah, we'll begin by trying to grab a couple. Seeds are nice, but why bother when we already have a good stock of these? So we're gonna need a bow. Let's go. And leads can occasionally break as you're leading animals, particularly if you try to move really fast, or are going over particularly rough terrain. Would you get out of the grass? So, jumping up lots of ledges and things like that, trying to very quickly move across water, things like that, all can be challenging. But compared to seeds and relying on the attention span of a chicken to get them to go where you want them to, Yeah, definitely, definitely preferable. So we'll get these 4 in. We've still got to put up our little floating torch area and light up the perimeter of our little chicken home. See, you can already see we broke. Oh, they're just stuck. I thought maybe we'd broken the leads, but glad to be proven wrong in that case. So let's get all you guys inside, and then just right click back on the chickens to recover those 4. Then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 diagonally gets us to the point of our floating torch block. Boom, 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 and boom, boom. Sorry for the motion. Missed gates somehow. That's an oops. So hopefully we don't have to do too much re-herding of the chickens. They'll get their taste of freedom before I'm back, I'm sure, and I'll have to do a little bit of that. Now our 2 llama friends here seem to be detached from the trader that I saw, and I wonder, those are cod. As they were climbing up this hill, did they break their leads? Can we get those? Again, we now have loads of spiderwebs, string, and we have 10 slime balls, so we don't need to rely on these, but it's just one of those things. I'm so used to throwing down the boat and getting the leads that I kind of probably end up with more than I need to, but it just always feels like you're getting something for nothing. Now, where did I heard him talking? Where did he actually go? Wow, we have some of the laziest chickens around. You guys all had your chance for freedom. I'm not going to feel bad at all when we have chicken fry night. So here you are. Let's have a quick chat. He's got some coral blocks, and those are a little nice because they're live, I believe. And if you just go hit a piece of coral underwater with an axe and bring it back home, it's gonna die. Just like in the real world, you can't just go into a reef. You ain't got a piece of coral and decide that you're gonna bring it home with you. That's not gonna work real well. But once you have silk touch and things like that, you can definitely gently relocate some coral if you're trying to make aquariums or things like that. It's a pretty cool block. I've never really done the underwater base type thing, but I would imagine it could be pretty cool when you're working on those types of things as well. I forgot to, what I'm coming back here to do is to break these eggs. Let's see how many more chickens we can get. I'm going to say the 2.5 stacks. Let's hope for 6. I don't know if that's accurate or not. If we get one real lucky and have 4 out of 1, then we're done. Some stacks you go through and you don't get any, but let's hope for 6 baby chickens and think that's a stretch goal. So 1, 2. Hey, we're right on pace. We're doing well. 3, 4. Still there. 5, 6. Hey! You saw it here first. The amazing Habbage number predictor. Now, is this a block that an Enderman deposited? I don't recall if that was just sitting out there free. How are beets doing? Since we focused on our little chickies. 2 of them already. And again, early on, I'll quickly break stuff. So, in our first chest here, we're going to throw down what beets we have. We'll come over and just drop off these random seeds. We got a chickie over there, but I'm not real wild about just endlessly chasing chickens around. We've got enough now between eggs and seeds. We should turn those into a whole bunch of chickens pretty quick, but as I'm running here, I don't think when we broke the eggs we'd even bothered to feed the 4 that we had, so let's do that. Get 2 more little chicks to add to our total. And even more than our cows, chickens will very quickly multiply, because each time that you come into feed or harvest, you're also going to get, stacks and stacks of eggs once you have a significant population. And the cycle just kind of repeats itself. With cows, you're doing the same thing by and large, but the only way that you get new babies is by the feeding. Chickens, you add to that the eggs, and so even after you've taken out a large number of adults, you're going to find that you have a whole bunch of young back in there. And because this will be our first opportunity to really have chicken, both cooked and uncooked, as food, we'll definitely seize that and add it, to our mushroom stew and other things that we're not going to really use regularly. Chicken's more than steak, other than cooking a stack to say I have it and have some for variety. It's a weaker food source, so I'm not going to rely on it long term. I want to get it and have it and call it good. But I'd like to get to an edge here where I can have a little more hope of not accidentally hitting the babies as I jump and clear out some of these cows. Oh, just like that. It makes you feel just awful. But it does seem that, it's the babies that tend to bump into your knees and push you off target as you're working. And when you first come into a really full cow field like this, they can't push you too far because everybody's hemmed in. But as you start to get this little bit of wiggle room, you'll have individuals moving around, and if each of the young kind of bind to or treat a single adult individual as their parent, and they'll they can imprint, if you want to call it that, on you and follow you around. It's rare, but it can happen. But more usually they will associate to one of these cows. Well, as I'm going through and continually clearing them out to make space for the next generation, they will switch from adult to adult. So if you happen to get the one that those babies are following around, they'll then, in their hurry to go move on to the next, they don't spend a whole lot of time mourning the loss of imprinted parents, but in their hurry to go find a replacement, they will sometimes push you along in a direction, and that can throw off your aim. And as we saw there, every once in a while you'll swing a bit wide and get a baby by accident, and that stinks. You don't get experience. You don't get any loot drops from it. You just kind of waste an opportunity and the effort you put into feeding and breeding and growing it. So cool. We got a whole nother round now. Having done that, this is our opportunity. We're going to keep one stack of steak in our hands, or beef at this point. And we want to do that because we're gonna, increasingly become dependent back on our steak as our food source. And I like to keep an extra stack topped off. And so that usually means, this and then a full. And we don't have to cook it immediately, but it's nice to have a few extras like that just laying around. We are now very good on leather, which is excellent. We are increasingly good on some of these things that we can now pull out of our food box. The hay, in fact, I think I'm going to move over to the donkey's chest that we just created. As I said, I want to keep a little bit of wheat in here. There's just a very few recipes for food that we may need some wheat for. So we'll keep just a couple. We got more carrots than we would really need in here, but they're here. So fair enough. Apples, we're getting close. As our gold supply goes up, we'll look to convert more of those to golden apples. Like to have a stack if I'm carrying around any. Just as soon have a whole bunch. So that's kind of the thinking. Whoa, hey, man, it must have been a full moon night. We got all kinds of friends in the area. And while I'm not opposed to taking y'all on, I also don't want you to hurt my donkey, most of all. Don't want you to hurt my house, even though it's ugly. I don't want to have to spend more time rebuilding it. I'd rather, when I do spend time on it, or spend it so we got our gold helmet supply is just incredible. Again, I'd kind of prefer the Prot 4 that we have to Prot 2 and Unbreaking 2, but and this one has very little durability, whereas this one is full strength. So see the difference there. Nothing here. This one's about to break. So we'll just repeat the process here. Again, kind of keep an eye down by the 42. You can see you got 2 bars of EXP, and you never know, but with 2 different enchantments, that might help. So yeah, we got an extra little one there. Not quite as much as mending, but nothing to sneeze at. So thank you, Mr. Skeleton. Now, here's where I was trying to go. Put away some of these random bits. We'll take the egg. No, we won't yet. We need chests. And well, we got it. I think this will give us enough. So we'll just go ahead and make 6. It'll give us 2 spare. There's always a reason to drop down a chest somewhere at some point or other. So here we go. Now, just to kind of keep consistent, we're going to go 1 in from our back edge, and there we go. We got chicken gear. So now we can have yet another place to dump endless supplies of seeds, and we can now, if we're in the area and it's convenient, you get some random eggs just from walking around. Can drop them in that chest and eventually, when you got a whole load, spend some time hucking them at the stones to see if you can get more baby chicks. So we'd also thrown in a few of our wild berries, and this is kind of what I'd considered, I think maybe our top here, we've got a good walkway around. We don't have a real need to go up on top of it. As we talked about, berry bushes, I don't think I'd walked into them, but if you, maybe not baby berry bushes. Now this is, never mind. This is why we don't do tutorials. I just show you what not to do. Okay, there's one. So if you step into a big berry bush, it's got little stickers. That's that sound. It's kind of poking at you. And with our diamond armor and all the rest, we're not taking the same amount of damage. But if you just have them spread around where you're walking, you bump into them, and oops, now I got stickers under my skin or in my pants, and it hurts. I'm just barely doing this to emphasize. So without armor, you can see pretty quickly they start chewing up my hearts. And that's why I wanted them up on a ledge like that. I don't then have to, or I can walk right around, and once these have all produced more berries, I can just run around the edge and gather them. You are such an attentive audience. Really, thanks for your interest. So we'll kind of consider that the berry patch. It's here right in the area of our natural pumpkins, and we still, I think we're getting our answer on the dark oak tree that we thrown down a sapling for in the last episode. And I know we're getting up to about full length on this one, so we'll probably take another break here. Recording time, it's a Saturday today, so I've got lots of time, and since it has snowed recently, it's not quite a beautiful day outside. Cool, a little breezy, so let's try this configuration and see if with 4 they will pop into a dark oak tree. And if that's the case, we can harvest and then wait for some more saplings to fall here on Prem. And just going through the inventory takes a little bit. I wanted to put these hay bales, and for the time being, we can even leave the leads. I believe we have at least one more in donkey, and we talked about donkey, and I said as we were going that a name was kind of occurring to me, and I think we're set on it. So we want one of our name tags, and we need to build the tool that eventually we're going to get quite a lot of use out of. This is a slowly consumable tool, and it requires 3 blocks of iron. Like coal or gold or anything else, as you get more iron, you can convert it into blocks, and without any real effort, they can stack up into blocks. You can make 64 blocks into a stack, so you can carry a whole lot of iron ingots around it, and just like gold, they can further break down into the little nuggets. So lots of carrying capacity when it comes to it, but we want to use this to make an anvil. So there we go. We've arranged our iron and balanced a couple of massive iron blocks on top of the little stack we had. I also want to put this away. And now we have an anvil, and that's just awesome. The thing I wanted to do was get this switched out. I don't like this dirt, and I think, sidetrack, announcing it now, let's use this as an opportunity to make some stone bricks. You make a nice lower level stone brick wall, and then build a house out of cobblestone on top of it. Maybe not the most realistic of scenarios, but I when I load videos and just see that dirt, I'm kind of like, man, we can do better. And there we go. I just left these torches to keep it really easy to see where to replace them. As I'd mentioned, I'm not as worried about the top, long term. Some type of ceiling that goes all the way down at about a uniform height is kind of nice. But I'm mainly, just you wouldn't build a house with stone without digging out a foundation. And I think since we have them using these bricks, I think it's kind of overly placed one there. I think this improves things, and honestly, I have a feeling, guys, the need is going to be compelling that we swap out our cobble now that we have it. It's not going to make the biggest difference, but now that I'm seeing it here, and once begun, it's tough not to continue. But what do you think? If you're watching and you got an opinion, drop me a comment and let me know if you think we should swap out the cobble. It won't be a big project. It's not that tough. We can just go around and get the accessible ones. But do you think we should swap out just the cobble without any further involvement of this building or doing a second floor or anything? Would you like to see the swap of the cobble for the brick, or leave it as is and just know that this was our first temporary type building? The reason I got to that sidetrack was I was thinking, let's, for a space-saving device, throw our anvil right in the wall like that. It doesn't need extra space, I don't think. Give it a shot. So, anvils. They are slowly consumable. Each function that you do within them will decrease their durability. They do have a life, and once you've used it up, it will just break, and that's it. It's gone. Poof. You got to build a new one. They don't go so quickly that you need to worry about it a whole lot. But what they do is allow you to use experience levels, and that's what this number enchantment cost will be, of your experience to perform certain functions on various tools. In the previous world, we found a enchanted book, a couple of them actually, but one that we'd hung on to and wanted to have at the ready. And that was something that, in fact, maybe I'm thinking that might have been the start of this world back in that very first cave. Regardless, when you have enchanted books, you can apply them to items in here. You can also combine items through an anvil. And this is where, if we wanted to use a diamond to improve our durability, we could do it through this mechanism too. All those different functions all cost varying amounts of enchantments. And as you add more enchantments or repeatedly repair individual tools or pieces of armor, those costs go up. So you kind of want to be aware as you're going in, and that's why I said with my first set of armor, by the time I really get to go into full enchants, if we've done repairing or if it's in bad shape, I'll just start fresh and build new sets. But for one enchantment, I'm definitely willing to spend that just to give my little horsey a name, and I've decided on the name Lud. This kind of fits into the same question I posed as I named this world. They both tie together, and again, if anybody's familiar and feels like commenting with the answer, I'll definitely give you a shout out for it. But think about it, see if it makes any sense to you. So Lud is our donkey. He's now got a name. We don't have to just refer to him as Donkey anymore. And to use this on Lud, we come over to him and boom, now he's got his name and it'll show up if we look at him. Really cool. And clearly that was the answer to our question about dark oaks. I'm glad we grabbed 4 of those saplings on our little journey, because now we got a new big tree. Man, I want to wrap up this episode, but I can't resist. We'll take this down and go on a break while we let it hopefully generate a few new saplings for us. Because if it doesn't, our dark oak tree days may be short-lived. Probably a bit of a trade-off. The 4 saplings, which I wasn't sure about, but using 4 of those to create a tree, probably pretty comparable to the individual oak trees. A bit more when you consider that most of those trees are going to be 4 to 5 blocks high, but when you throw in the giant oak trees that pop, they probably push that average back up. The advantage that I see here is even when bigger and more involved, the dark oaks don't have those branches and all that. You don't need ladders to get up them. You can go in the spiral pattern that I just used to climb up to the top and then chop your way back down again. As soon as you can reach up to the top blocks, you don't have to keep spiraling. You just take them all down. So, and I believe maybe we didn't even in the first roll. I was trying to think if we had any giant trees to show that on. When we do, we'll see that spiraling technique is really helpful if you find yourself in jungles or the giant taigas. You get a lot of opportunity. So while those are still breaking down, we'll put our 4 more in an arrangement and repeat the process. And even if we just get 1 more, we're already potentially on the path to increasing our supply. And it's very random when it comes to trees and saplings how many of their decaying leaves drop additional saplings. But generally you're gonna come out better than you started, and we'll soon have an overwhelming supply, particularly if we'd spent more time out in that forest just kind of clear cutting an area and taking away all the saplings without replanting. We'd have a whole bunch pretty quickly, but we were on the move, and I think for our next episode after the break, we'll do a bit more of that. We've covered that. We've on land gone quite a ways in those directions, and initially we came from back that way. So I think we're gonna kind of skirt the ice and the mountains, go in between in a boat, and see what more we can find out and around the world. Would absolutely love it if we had a few more drops, but I think we'll wait that answer in our next episode on Save This World, and wrap up this episode. And sincerely thank you all once again for joining me for this recording. I hope you enjoyed it. Drop a comment, leave me some feedback, anything that you particularly enjoy or anything you'd like to see that we haven't covered so far. And if you do know what the name of the world and our new donkey name alludes to, drop me a comment in any of the episodes. I think it'd be fun if anybody goes, "Oh, I know what that all is referring to," and appreciates it, to get that in the comments. So we'll keep maybe leaving a few more clues along the way as we find new pets or other things to name. So You guys, let me know. Have a great break. If you're watching these back to back, enjoy the time between videos as a chance to hop up and stretch your legs. Go get a glass of water, or as I am going to now do, switch out to a different cup of coffee that is a couple hours old, but hopefully still warm. And we'll see you in the next. Thanks again. Have a great day.